Welcome to Fiction Universe, where stories abound. Don't miss out on Pavilion Tales. Subscribe now. Scroll all the way down for the full story. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Our wonderful story begins now. When Daniel slid the crumpled, printed-out lab report across the table to me, his hand was trembling. Stomach cancer. Stage 4, Clara. I don't have much time. He kept his head down, his voice raspy like a cornered animal's desperate whine. You're a good woman. I can't drag you down with me. Before things get worse, let's get a divorce. The house, the hundreds of thousands in savings, it's all yours. I'll just go back to my parents' place to wait for the end. If I hadn't, just half an hour earlier, discovered the hidden plane tickets and a premarital medical screening report in a secret compartment in our bedroom closet, I might have actually fallen for his deeply devoted, self-sacrificing act. The marriage license was for him and Tiffany, his so-called distant cousin, who, I'd recently learned, was pregnant. A sickening wave of revulsion washed over me as I looked at Daniel's pale, earnest face. To ensure I would leave with nothing, to clear his conscience before running off to his new life, he was willing to invent his own death. He had calculated my reaction perfectly, knowing that if I believed he was terminally ill, I would be too compassionate to watch him liquidate everything for medical treatments. I would give up my claim to our assets and, to fulfill his dying wish, sign the papers without delay. He had miscalculated one crucial detail. That very morning, I had a confidential meeting with a sharply dressed lawyer. My estranged uncle, a successful entrepreneur who had moved to Europe years ago, had passed away. He had left me a $20 million trust fund. The sole condition for inheritance was that the beneficiary must be unmarried. Furthermore, if the beneficiary's marriage ended due to a significant fault of the other party, the inheritance rights were absolutely protected by law. I stared at Daniel, my eyes instantly welling up. Tears streamed down my face like broken pearls. I'd give my performance an Oscar. No, Daniel, I won't leave you. I'll sell the house. I'll sell my blood. I'll do anything to save you. I threw myself at him, grabbing his arm and digging my nails into his flesh. A flash of vicious impatience flickered in his eyes before being masked by a look of profound sorrow. He gently pushed me away. Clara, listen to me, he said, his tone grave. The doctor said it's already spread. It would just be throwing good money after bad. My only wish is to know that you'll have a good life. Don't waste it on a dead man walking. But I choked, my shoulders shaking violently. No buts, he snapped, his voice suddenly sharp. Realizing his mistake, he slumped back in his chair, defeated. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., at City Hall. If you ever loved me, you'll grant me this last shred of dignity. I wiped my tears with my sleeve, hiding the icy contempt in my eyes as I lowered my head. Okay, I whispered. I'll do it. And I will make sure, Daniel, I added silently, that you get exactly what you deserve. He audibly sighed in relief, not even bothering with a comforting word. Mumbling an excuse about needing to buy painkillers, he grabbed his jacket and rushed out the door. I stood by the window and watched him walk away, his stride strong and confident. He didn't look like a man in the final stages of pancreatic cancer. He was in such a hurry, undoubtedly to share the good news with Tiffany. I pulled out my phone and dialed my lawyer. Mr. Davies, please have all the asset reception documents ready. I will have the divorce decree in hand by 10:30 tomorrow morning. After hanging up, I looked at my pale, determined reflection in the mirror. And we're going to make it a big one. You want your freedom and a new life. I just want my $20 million and the satisfaction of knowing you'll never get back on your feet. The next morning at 9:50, I arrived at City Hall. Daniel was already there, wearing a deliberately oversized, dreary gray hoodie. His face looked even more sallow than the night before, and he'd cultivated a pathetic layer of stubble on his chin. He leaned against a lamppost, bent over in a fit of violent coughing, each hack sounding like it was tearing him apart. Daniel, are you okay? I rushed over, my voice trembling with just the right amount of concern, and reached for his arm. He subtly pulled away, taking a crumpled tissue from his pocket to cover his mouth. I'm fine, he rasped weakly. Coughed up a little blood, that's all. Did you bring everything? I glanced at the perfectly clean tissue, devoid of even a speck of red, and scoffed internally. His props were lazy, but the desperation in his eyes was real, so real he looked ready to physically shove me out of his life. "I have it all," I said. My gaze lowered to hide my smirk as I took out our marriage certificate and the divorce agreement. "But I still can't do this, Daniel. If you're gone, what's the point of having any of this money?" "Don't be ridiculous," he cut in, his tone so sharp it was jarring. He quickly softened his voice. "Be good. Take the money. It's the only security I can leave you. We need to hurry. My doctor is waiting for me to come back for my IV drip." I nodded obediently and followed him inside. The process was astonishingly smooth. When Daniel signed the papers, the pen seemed to dance across the page with a life of its own. I noticed his hand wasn't shaking at all. In fact, as he pressed his thumbprint onto the document, there was a palpable sense of relieved force. The moment two crisp, new divorce decrees were pushed in front of us, he snatched one and stuffed it into his pocket so fast it was almost a blur. "Clara, I feel dizzy. I need to get back to the hospital. You can grab a cab home. Be safe." He tossed the words over his shoulder, not even feigning a farewell kiss, and turned to leave. His steps were slow and labored at first, but the second he crossed the threshold of the building, his spine straightened. I followed slowly, positioning myself behind a large marble pillar. A flashy red Porsche was parked at the curb. Tiffany, dressed to the nines and fiddling with a pair of designer sunglasses, was leaning against the door. Daniel practically sprinted toward her. She laughed and jumped into his arms, and they shared a deep kiss in public. "Did you get it?" she cooed. "Got it." Daniel's voice was clear and strong, entirely free of the deathly rattle of a cancer patient. "Let's go, baby. First, a celebratory feast to mark my rebirth. This afternoon, we'll go make that little heir of ours official." The Porsche's engine roared to life, and they sped away, leaving a faint scent of exhaust in the air. I stood on the steps, clutching the divorce decree. Just then, my phone vibrated. It was a private number. "Miss Evans?" Mr. Davies's calm voice said. "Our system monitoring indicates your marital status has been updated to divorced. The $20 million trust fund left by your uncle is now officially unlocked. The first wire transfer of $10 million is scheduled to arrive before 3 a.m. tomorrow. Additionally, the evidence you requested regarding Mr. Miller's transfer of marital assets has been compiled." "Excellent, Mr. Davies." I watched the Porsche disappear in the distance, a cruel smile finally forming on my lips. "Hold on to the evidence for now. Wait until he and his mistress are officially married. I have a very special wedding gift planned for them." At 3 a.m., my phone screen lit up. I was wide awake, still fully dressed, sitting on the living room sofa and watching the city lights go out one by one. The text message arrived right on schedule. "A deposit of $10 million has been made to your account, ending in 7,702. The long string of zeros glowed in the darkness. I let out a long breath. 3 years of suffocating resentment vanished in that single moment. At 8 a.m., there was a knock on the door. Assuming it was Mr. Davies with more paperwork, I was surprised to see Daniel. He wore a brand new, tailored navy suit, his hair was perfectly coiffed, and he smelled faintly of expensive cologne. He was carrying an empty pharmacy bag. "Clara, I came back to get a few things." He walked in without taking off his shoes, tracking dirt onto the floor I had just cleaned yesterday. I watched him coolly. "I thought you were going home to die. Or did a medical miracle occur?" Daniel froze for a second, then nonchalantly walked to the water cooler and poured a glass. "My doctor says it's a rare case," he said dismissively. "Maybe it's my positive attitude, but my vitals have miraculously stabilized." He suggested a change of scenery, though. "I've already listed this house with a realtor. People will be coming for viewings in a few days, so you should hurry up and move out." A chill went down my spine. My parents had paid for most of the down payment on this house. Although it was in both our names, the divorce agreement he had tricked me into signing stated that I voluntarily relinquished all rights to the property as compensation for his medical bills. "You can't even wait a week, Daniel?" I stared at him, my voice filled with a carefully crafted despair. "You know how it is. Doctor's appointments, medication, it all costs money, he said, turning to face me. The loving gaze from yesterday was gone, replaced by cold calculation. My cousin Tiffany, she helped me find a clinic in Switzerland. I need to liquidate my assets quickly. Look, Clara, people move on to bigger and better things. Don't blame me. It's just life. As he spoke, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen, and his expression softened into something almost subservient. Hey, Tiffy. Yes, I'm here, just packing now. Don't worry. I'll be at City Hall at 2 sharp. We'll get it done today. Her? Yeah. I'll get rid of the old ball and chain, don't you worry. Don't get stressed, it's not good for the baby. He hung up and looked at me, no longer bothering with the pretense. You heard that, Clara. I'll be honest, I don't have cancer. I had someone Photoshop the report, he smirked. Tiffany is pregnant with my son, and her father is a big deal in real estate. He can set me up for life. A woman like you, who just cooks and cleans, is out of her league with the man I am now. For old time's sake, here's $3,000. Take it and go find a new place. He pulled out a thin stack of cash and tossed it contemptuously on the coffee table, as if tipping a beggar. I looked at the money, then at his smug, triumphant face, and I wanted to laugh. Daniel, are you sure you want to burn this bridge completely? I asked softly, my finger tracing the edge of my phone. What, should I keep you around for Thanksgiving? He sneered, picking up a bag of his things. Don't call me again. You're bad luck. The door slammed shut behind him. I picked up the $3,000 and dropped it into the trash can, then dialed Mr. Davies. Mr. Davies, he's in a hurry to get married? Let him. And please, find me the most expensive, most ostentatious standalone villa in the city. Money is no object. Less than 2 hours later, my social media feeds exploded. Daniel's long-dormant Instagram account roared back to life with a 9-photo grid. In the center was a picture of their bright red marriage certificate, surrounded by photos of expensive steaks, clinking champagne glasses, and a clear, official health certificate. The caption was a knife to the heart. Waking up from a nightmare and starting a new life. Thankful for the hardships that showed me who my true love is. For the rest of my life, my baby and I will live for you, Tiffany. The first comment was from him. The sickness is gone, and so is the bad luck. I zoomed in on the health certificate. The date was from a month ago. While he was theatrically coughing up imaginary blood and begging me to let him go, he had been holding Tiffany's hand at a clinic, getting a full physical for his new role as a wealthy son-in-law. I could just imagine how he'd describe me to her. A clinging, suffocating, dead weight of an ex-wife. I scrolled through the photos expressionlessly, my finger pausing for a second on their smiling portrait. Tiffany was snuggled against him, looking pure and victorious, holding a limited edition Chanel bag, one I had saved for half a year for but never bought. I didn't block him. I didn't even comment, I just liked the post. Less than 3 minutes later, a DM from Tiffany popped up. Saw Daniel's post. Did you? I almost feel sorry for you, holding on to a man who didn't love you for so long. He said every day with you was agony. Oh, by the way, this house will be in my name next week. A place this small is only good as an investment property, really. We'll sell it to buy me more bags. I read the words and let out a quiet, disdainful snort. Congratulations on your marriage, Tiffany, I typed back quickly. Since you love picking up trash so much, I wish you a long and happy life together in the dumpster. And you might want to remind Daniel that the universe has a funny way of dealing with medical miracles. I sent the message and immediately blocked her. Next, I called the city's most exclusive moving company. I need everything that is mine packed and moved within 2 hours. Everything else, the furniture, the appliances, donate it all to Goodwill. I mean everything. Don't leave a single piece of paper for the new owner. As I walked out with my purse, I ran right into Daniel, who had come back for his car keys. He saw the movers streaming in and out, and after a moment of shock, he laughed mockingly. Wow, Clara. Moving fast, are we? Which little shoebox in the valley are you moving into? Make that $3,000 last. Don't come crying to me for money later. I stopped and slowly pulled a pair of designer sunglasses from my purse, putting them on. You know, Daniel, your smug look is even uglier than your fake cancer face. I walked past him, whispering as I went, "You'd better pray that Tiffany's family has deep pockets. Otherwise, you won't even have the chance to come back and beg me to take you back." "In your dreams," he shouted after me as I stepped into the elevator, not looking back. The confidence of $20 million made even breathing feel easier. Step 1 was leaving. Step 2 was showing him what a real rebirth looked like. 3 days after moving out, I was at the Pinnacle Grand, the city's most exclusive luxury shopping mall, selecting a gown for a charity gala. The mall was by invitation only, and the black card in my wallet was enough to make every sales associate bow their head and call me Miss Evans. Just as I was pointing to a stunning, six-figure iridescent gown in the display window, a sharp, familiar voice jeered from behind me. Well, if it isn't my former sister-in-law. Are you working here now, or just window shopping to pretend you have taste?" I turned to see Tiffany clinging to Daniel's arm, looking me up and down with disdain. Daniel was wearing an ill-fitting designer suit and carrying several bags from what looked like a clearance sale. His gaze was full of a condescending pity. "Clara, this isn't the place for you," he said, frowning. "One dress here costs more than your salary for a year. If you're that broke, just ask. I'll Venmo you a couple $100 for a decent meal. Don't embarrass yourself." Tiffany giggled, deliberately flashing her entry-level Hermes bag. "Oh, Danny, don't be so harsh. Maybe she's hoping to find a rich man to save her. But honestly, Miss Evans, a divorced, jobless woman like you, could probably only land a security guard. A dress like this. You don't even have the right to touch it." She then waved a dismissive hand at a nearby associate. "You! I want to try on that gown. I'm attending a party with my father." The sales associate looked awkwardly from me to Tiffany. "My apologies, madam," she said politely, "but this starlight gown is one of only 3 in the world, and it has already been reserved by Miss Evans. We are just waiting for the tailor to arrive for her fitting." The air went still. Daniel looked as if he'd heard the world's most ridiculous joke. "She reserved it? With what? Her severance pay?" He turned to me, hissing. "Clara, have you lost your mind? Are you really so desperate to protect your pathetic pride that you'd come here and act like this? Do you have any idea how much this dress costs? It's $680,000. You couldn't afford it even if you sold your parents' house." Calmly, I took the black card from my purse and spun it between my fingers, my eyes glancing at the discount season bags in their hands. "Daniel, I always knew you had a black heart, but I never realized your taste was so poor." A detached smile played on my lips. $100,000 is what I might spend on a whim. You, on the other hand, have spent all day with your heiress, and all you have to show for it is a pile of last season's leftovers. Miss Reed, I thought your father was a big deal. Can't he even afford to buy you a current season limited edition?" Tiffany's face turned shades of red and white. "You're lying," she shrieked. "That card has to be fake. Where would you get that kind of money?" "Fake or not, we can find out easily enough," I said, handing the card to the associate with a voice that was quiet but resonated with authority. "Please have this wrapped. And the other 3 couture pieces I selected earlier, have them all delivered to the penthouse at the Celestial Tower. Thank you." The Celestial Tower, penthouse? Daniel stood frozen, his voice trembling. It was the most expensive residential building in the city, with prices 10 times that of our old house. The associate respectfully handed back my card. I leaned in close to Daniel's ear. "The social ladder you were so desperate to climb, Daniel? I'm already at the top waiting for you. Try to keep up. It would be a shame if your high society dreams crumbled so soon." 3 days later, I was sitting in the VIP lounge of the Celestial Tower's sales office, reviewing the property ownership documents Mr. Davies had prepared. Just on the other side of a frosted glass wall, Daniel was with Tiffany and her father, Arthur Reed, arguing heatedly over a small apartment they couldn't secure due to a funding shortfall. "But Dad, I want this one." Tiffany's whining voice cut through the air. "Daniel said that living at the Celestial is the only way our baby will have the right kind of social circle." "I'd love to buy it," Arthur Reed snapped, his voice gruff. "But the company's cash flow is tight right now. We can only cover the down payment." I was counting on the sale of Daniel's house to cover the gap, but it turns out the damn place has an unpermitted extension and is under investigation. It's unsellable. Through the glass, I could clearly see Daniel standing by meekly, like a scolded child. I'm so sorry, Arthur. I had no idea the renovated balcony wasn't up to code. I smirked, picked up my coffee, and walked out of the VIP room. Well, what a coincidence, Mr. Miller. I stopped in front of the three of them, my heels clicking on the marble floor. Daniel's eyes nearly popped out of his head. He glanced from me to the VIP room behind me, then to the thick stack of documents in my hand. Clara, he seethed. Are you stalking me? How did a peasant like you even get in here? Tiffany immediately chimed in. Security, security. What is this flashy woman doing here? Did she sneak in to take pictures of the floor plans to post on her Instagram? The sales manager hurried over, bypassing Tiffany completely and bowing deeply to me. Miss Evans, my sincerest apologies for this disturbance. The paperwork for your penthouse, including the HOA fees and parking agreements, is ready for your signature. You can move in anytime. The penthouse? Arthur Reed was stunned. He turned to the manager. Are you sure? That unit is worth over $30 million. Even I have to think twice about that. Miss Evans is our all-cash buyer, the manager replied coolly, then turned to Mr. Reed. And Mr. Reed, if you are unable to settle the remainder of your down payment today, we will have to release the 600 square foot studio you selected to the next client on the waiting list. Daniel's face was a kaleidoscope of shock and horror. He stared at the bright red property deed in my hand, where the name Clara Evans was clearly printed. Where did you get the money? He stammered. Clara, have you been... Before he could finish his accusation, I swung my hand and slapped him across the face with all my strength. The sharp crack echoed through the entire hall. Watch your mouth, Daniel, I said, pulling a sanitizing wipe from my purse to clean my fingers. This property was part of an inheritance, and speaking of which, that touching story about your fake cancer? I've already forwarded all the details to your dear father-in-law. Your plan to become a wealthy son-in-law by faking a divorce seems to have backfired. I turned to Arthur Reed with a pitying smile. Mr. Reed, is this really your hand-picked man of potential? A lowlife who would curse himself with a terminal illness just to scam his way out of a marriage? Are you sure you want someone like that working in your company? Arthur Reed's eyes turned to steel as he glared at Daniel. Daniel, you told me you and your ex-wife had an amicable split because you were truly in love with my daughter. What is this about cancer? Daniel's legs gave out, and he nearly collapsed. Sweat poured down his temples as he stammered, unable to form a coherent sentence. Dad, don't listen to this crazy woman. Tiffany shrieked, her eyes red. She's just jealous. Jealous that Daniel married me and that I'm having his baby. She has no proof, she's just trying to cause trouble. But Arthur Reed, a self-made man, was no fool. He coldly shook off his daughter's arm, his gaze cutting into Daniel like a knife. Tell me, Daniel, what is this about a diagnosis? I chuckled softly and opened my phone, projecting the complete chat history between Daniel and a graphic designer, along with the original, clearly photoshopped lab report onto the massive LED screen in the sales office. Perhaps this will help, Mr. Reed, I said, pointing at Daniel's message on the screen. Make this pathology report look like late-stage pancreatic cancer, as real as possible. I need her to sign the divorce papers, as soon as possible. That's his personal number, I believe. You might recognize it. The hall fell silent. Other potential buyers stopped to stare at the screen, pointing and whispering. Daniel's face went from white to green to a deathly gray. Smack! Arthur Reed's backhand sent Daniel sprawling onto a nearby sofa. You parasite! He roared, his chest heaving. If there's one thing I can't stand, it's a liar. If you can pull a stunt like this, what's to stop you from plotting against me to get your hands on my fortune? Arthur, it's not like that. I only did it because I love Tiffany so much. I was afraid Clara wouldn't let me go. Daniel scrambled up, trying to grab Arthur's leg. Get off me! Arthur kicked him away and turned to his sobbing daughter. Tiffany, this man is poison. The wedding tomorrow is canceled. And the baby, get rid of it. The Reed family will not tolerate this humiliation. No, Dad. I love him. Tiffany collapsed on the floor, wailing. I watched the drama unfold with cold detachment. Daniel had destroyed his own reputation to climb the social ladder, and Tiffany had forced a pregnancy to secure her true love. Now that the ladder had been kicked out from under them, their feigned devotion instantly turned into weapons against each other. Daniel, I said, bending down to look at his pathetic form, my voice gentle. You see? The ordinary life you were so desperate to escape, now you won't even have that. You tried to scam your way into the Reed family's money, only to blow it all up yourself. You won't see a single penny of my $20 million inheritance. And not only that, I added, the marital assets you illegally transferred before our divorce. Mr. Davies has already filed a lawsuit. You'll be served soon. Enjoy your new life, Mr. Miller. Daniel stared at me, his eyes filled with pure, undiluted hatred, but he was speechless. I straightened up and walked out of the sales office under the complex gaze of everyone present. The sunlight outside was bright. I took a deep, cleansing breath. My soul had never felt so free. A week later, a massive rainstorm swept through the city. The floor-to-ceiling windows were blurred with condensation. I was sitting in the living room of the Celestial Tower penthouse, leisurely flipping through the property preservation application Mr. Davies had sent over, when the intercom suddenly buzzed violently. On the screen, Daniel stood outside the apartment building, completely drenched. His once crisp suit was plastered to his body, and his hair was a mess. He looked exactly like a drowning dog that had been rolling in the mud. Clara, I know you're home. Please, open the door. I just want to see you." His voice came through the speaker, hoarse and laced with a pathetic, crying tone. I put down my coffee cup and pressed the talk button, my voice flat and completely devoid of emotion. "Daniel, trespassing at a private luxury apartment complex is illegal. The fact that security hasn't kicked you out yet is only out of pity for your past self." "Clara, I was wrong. I was really wrong." Daniel suddenly dropped to his knees in front of the camera. His knees hit the hard marble ground with a dull thud. The Reeds pulled their investments. Arthur not only canceled the wedding, but he also used his connections to make sure I can't find a job in this industry ever again. He even demanded I pay back the money he used to buy Tiffany's car, saying it was a loan to his son-in-law, not a gift. I sneered. An old fox like Arthur Reed never spat out the bones when he ate people alive. Daniel thought he could play the Reeds, but he didn't realize he was the one being beaten to a pulp. "That's your problem, Mr. Miller. Clara, I'm begging you. For the sake of our 3 years of marriage, please help me." He pressed his face close to the camera, his eyes bloodshot, his expression frantic and crazed. "I received the lawsuit from Mr. Davies. You want to recover that $500,000 in joint property. I really can't come up with the money right now. If they execute the judgment, I'm completely ruined. You have $20 million now, $500,000 is nothing to you. Please, let me go, okay? Our marriage?" I slowly chewed on those words as if I'd heard the most absurd joke. "Did you think about our marriage when you faked cancer to trick me into a divorce? Did you think about our marriage when you and Tiffany were mocking me as bad luck on social media? Daniel, didn't you have cancer? Now that your cancer is miraculously cured, did your brain rot instead? As long as you drop the lawsuit, as long as you help me pay off my debts, I'll come back and serve you immediately. I don't want a divorce anymore. Let's get remarried." He spoke rapidly, as if this were some grand favor he was bestowing upon me. "I know you still have feelings for me, otherwise you wouldn't have shown up at the sales office that day. If we remarry, that $20 million belongs to both of us. We can start over. I'll treat you well for the rest of my life." I couldn't listen to another word. Leaning into the intercom, I softly spat out one word, "roll." Then, I dialed the property manager's number. "Hello, there is a mentally unstable vagrant harassing residents at the entrance of Tower 1. Please handle it immediately. Also, if you let him in again, I will seriously reconsider paying my HOA fees." 2 minutes later, 4 burly security guards appeared on the surveillance feed. Like lifting a small chicken, they dragged a wailing, begging Daniel out the gates and threw him directly into the torrential rain on the street. I turned off the monitor, and the room instantly returned to its elegant, wealthy silence. He thought 20 million was a mountain of gold he could climb, but he didn't know it was the grave I had dug for him with my own hands. As long as he didn't give up, every second that followed would be pure agony. The day after Daniel was thrown out by security, I received an unexpected package. Inside was the court summons for the lawsuit against Daniel, as well as an audio file from Tiffany. She wanted to meet one last time at a cafe near her apartment. When I saw her, her once pretty face was swollen and bruised, the purple marks around her eyes visible even under thick concealer. On the table in front of her was an appointment card for an abortion clinic. Her eyes were filled with a dead, manic energy. "You won, Clara," she said, her hands shaking, as she pushed a recording pen across the table. "But if I'm going down, I'm taking him with me." This is a recording of Daniel admitting everything, how he faked the diagnosis and how he planned to sue you for a share of your inheritance after the divorce was final. I raised an eyebrow but said nothing. The day he knelt outside your building begging you to take him back, he came home and choked me, demanding money, Tiffany said with a cold, tear-stained laugh. He said I ruined his chance at being a millionaire, that if I hadn't been in such a hurry to get married, he could have stayed with you for a few more months until your inheritance came through, then faked his death to get it all. Clara, that man was planning to ruin you from the very beginning. I picked up the recorder and pressed play. Daniel's violent, enraged voice filled the air. "If it wasn't for you and your stupid belly, I'd be a millionaire by now." That idiot was completely fooled. I just needed a few more months for the inheritance to clear. Then I'd fake my death, and all that money would be mine. "It's all your fault, you useless bitch." The sound of fists hitting flesh and Tiffany's pleading cries followed. I turned it off and looked at her, feeling no sympathy. "What do you want from me, Tiffany? Forgiveness? Or for me to use this to destroy him for you?" He tried to sell me to a loan shark to pay off his debts. "I have no other choice," she said, pulling a folder of documents from her bag. "This is proof that he embezzled money and forged company seals at my father's business. Is this enough to put him away for good? If he's in jail, the loan sharks will leave me alone, and my father might take me back. Help me, Clara. I'll testify against him." Just then, the cafe door burst open. Daniel, looking completely unhinged, rushed in, brandishing a fruit knife. "I knew it! You two bitches were plotting against me." He lunged toward Tiffany, the blade glinting in the light. I didn't move. I had already called the police before I arrived, and Mr. Davies's professional bodyguards were standing right outside the window. "You really do look like a cockroach that's been stepped on in the gutter, Daniel," I said calmly, as the bodyguards instantly subdued him, pinning him to the floor. I stood up and looked down at him from above. Half of his face was pressed against the cold tile as he continued to scream obscenities. "Clara, you have 20 million. Just give me half. 1 million. I'll disappear. You can't be this cruel. We were together for 3 years. 3 years I consider a bad investment," I said, kneeling down and holding up my phone, displaying my bank balance in front of his face. "Take a good look, Daniel. This is a number you will never touch. You thought you were just cheating your way out of a marriage, but what you really threw away was your only salvation." The wail of sirens grew closer. Daniel stared at the glowing numbers, first laughing maniacally, then breaking into heaving, desperate sobs. The sharp stench of urine began to spread across the cafe floor. Tiffany slumped in her chair, covering her face, her laughter looking even uglier than crying. I walked out of the cafe into the bright daylight and dialed Mr. Davies. "Submit all the evidence. I want him to stay in there for the rest of his life." I walked out of the cafe into the blue sky and dialed Mr. Davies. "Submit all the evidence. I want him to stay in there for the rest of his life." 3 months later, the verdict came. For forgery, fraud, and aggravated assault, Daniel was sentenced to 7 years in prison. Due to his violent outburst in the courtroom where he attempted to attack the prosecutor, I heard his time inside would be particularly difficult. As for Tiffany, her testimony earned her immunity, but to save the family's reputation, her father sent her to a remote, private wellness center abroad, a gilded cage for life. On the day I received the verdict, I visited the prison. Through the thick, bulletproof glass, I could hardly recognize the man before me. Daniel's head was shaved, his face was gaunt, and his eyes were hollow. He saw me and lunged at the glass, his bony fingers clawing at the surface. "Clara, Clara, save me. I was wrong. I know I was wrong," he howled into the receiver. "This place is hell. They beat me every day. Tiffany's family paid people to. You have 20 million. You can bribe someone to get me out. I'll be your slave for the rest of my life, I swear." I watched him, my heart a placid lake, without a single ripple of vengeful satisfaction. "Daniel," I said, my voice as gentle as if I were discussing the weather, "do you remember the night before our divorce? You were in the bathroom, texting Tiffany, telling her I was the dumbest, most gullible woman you'd ever met. You were so happy then." His crying stopped, replaced by a look of sheer terror. "I've always wanted to tell you, actually. According to the terms of my uncle's will, if we had remained married until his death, you, as my spouse, would have been the primary heir, entitled to 40% of the trust." I watched his pupils shrink as I delivered the final blow, enunciating each word. "That's $8 million, Daniel. That was your well-deserved compensation for your efforts. But you were just too impatient." "8 million," he mumbled, his voice cracking. Then, he let out a soul-tearing scream and began ramming his head against the glass until blood streamed down his face. I hung up the phone and walked away without a second glance. Outside the prison gates, Mr. Davies was waiting by a black SUV. He took my bag and asked softly, "Where to now, Miss Evans? The private jet is fueled and ready. Shall the first stop be the Northern Lights, or would you prefer scuba diving in the South Pacific?" "The airport," I said, getting into the car and watching the prison's gray walls and barbed wire fences recede. "This city is suffocating. I want to see the world." As the car smoothly merged onto the highway, I opened my phone and deleted every photo, every message, every trace of the last 3 years. Then, I posted one last thing to my Instagram, a photo of my silhouette, looking out over the entire city from my penthouse balcony. The caption was simple: "The storm has passed." The setting sun cast a golden glow on my hand. The wedding ring that had once symbolized a lie was now at the bottom of the ocean. In its place was a magnificent blue diamond that captured the light. The 20 million was just the beginning. True freedom, that was the ultimate prize I had won in this high-stakes gamble.